My parents were killed in an accident when I was 3 years old. My aunt, my mother's sister, was the sole living member of my family at the time. I did not have any grandparents. At the time, my aunt was a Korean lady who was 28 years old and busy at work. Work was like a lover to my sister, and marriage didn't seem to be a priority for her. My mother told me that, and everyone in the extended family acknowledged that she was a lady who lived for her work. Taking care of a child would therefore be a tremendous burden, but my aunt didn't seem unhappy with me. Instead, she assured me that she would accept me with a cheery smile. My mother and aunt didn't seem all that alike, but they had the same lovely eyes that formed a semicircle when they smiled. I recall as a little child feeling quite relieved. I started to understand how busy my aunt was even as a little child when I moved in with her. She would drop me off at daycare at 7:30 a.m. and pick me up around 7 p.m., but she never looked tired. "What did you do today?" She would ask me while grinning, and then we would hold hands as we walked home. My aunt was always smiling, but she was strict about greetings and manners. If I neglected to say thank you, "I'm sorry, I'm home," or "I'm back," she would frequently remind me. She was quite particular about even seemingly minor necessities, like lining up my shoes when I took them off, and I recall that there were occasions when I didn't like that. But as a result, I received compliments on my manners everywhere I went. So now I'm grateful to my aunt. My aunt always seemed to be busy like that. She continued to attend my school events, such as field excursions and sports day, even after I started elementary school. I never felt lonely at all. I never felt ashamed about growing up without parents. Looking back, I believe that I had a genuinely happy upbringing. That is why, even if my aunt didn't tell me to do so, when I arrived home from school, I worked hard and attentively to complete my preparation and review. As soon as I arrived home from school, I started working hard and diligently to complete my study prep and review. I didn't find it annoying, so it was only logical that I did well in school. My aunt always said, "I knew you would do well, Mason. You were truly remarkable." My aunt always praised me, but when I told her I was planning to take the admission exam for junior high school, she responded, "You're not required to push yourself to attend an excellent school. Playing is what kids do best." My aunt was worried, but I wanted to please her, so I decided to give it a shot. She lavishly complimented me when I was admitted to the city's best junior high school. I continued to make it a habit to study every day, even after I started junior high. Before I knew it, the occasional music break in the middle of my studies had become my one and only pastime. I eventually started to appreciate performing music as well as just listening to it. My aunt bought me a guitar for my 13th birthday, and I played it every day. Most of the time, I played while my aunt was at work. When I was in 8th grade, I was playing the guitar in my room when my aunt entered. She had just returned from work and asked, "What's going on?" I was a little anxious because I had never allowed anyone to listen to my playing. "Excuse me?" I replied a little bluntly. Then my aunt said, "Mason, were you playing that?" I thought it was CD music. With her eyes wide open, she spoke. Although I was ecstatic to hear her say that, I was still a little embarrassed. "Really? All I did was simply copy a song," I told her. "No, it's fantastic. You just got started not even a year ago. Mason, you're gifted, I can tell," she said so excitedly. And then, "You're so talented you could even go pro," she said to me. I had always loved playing the guitar. It's not that I never considered pursuing a career as a performer, whether in a band or as a vocalist, but I knew only a few people succeeded, and realistically speaking, I had given up on the idea from the very beginning. So when my aunt told me that, I was so happy that I almost cried. If I told you I wanted to be a professional musician, what would you think? I was aware even as a child that it would be difficult and an adult would only reject it further. But I wanted to consult my aunt because I figured she might understand. Then again, my aunt said, "Of course I will support you. It's a wonderful dream. I believe you can fulfill your dream, Mason. Giving up on the dream you've discovered would be a shame." And she smiled. I had previously believed it would be difficult for me to accomplish it alone. But after having someone support me, I understood how much courage one can master. I made the decision to enroll in music lessons. Prior to that, I had only ever copied the songs of other musicians, but after mastering the fundamentals, I felt more comfortable with my own playing. I acquired the ability to compose my own music and play with individuality. As my fascination with music grew, I tried my hand at both singing and playing the guitar. She always praised me highly wherever I performed for her or invited her to a concert. My dream of becoming a professional musician grew stronger. Despite the distance, I was admitted to a high school that had a music program. I kept up my commitment to music in high school and started a band with some of my friends. We played live shows frequently. I started writing songs and lyrics while playing guitar and singing. Not only my classmates, but also seniors and juniors became fans of our songs. We were having a lot of fun playing music. My Aunt Mason, aren't you really talented? And you practice hard every day. That's amazing. She told that to me. One day, as I was attending class, I was considering applying to a college with a music-related specialty. Unexpectedly, a different teacher from my class came and called me. I had no idea what was going on and went out into the hallway. Then I was informed that a co-worker of my aunt's had called to say that she had fainted at work. I left school early right away and went to the hospital, where I was instructed to go. I had never experienced anything like this, so I was really worried. She had been working so hard every day, so she must have collapsed from overwork or something. I had to explain to my aunt that she was getting older and needed to have a good rest. Thinking of this, I entered the lobby of the hospital. My aunt was sitting on the couch, looking different than usual, staring off into the distance. I was a little taken aback because I had never seen such a face from my aunt, who was generally so happy and upbeat. She didn't notice me at all when I approached her. "Auntie?" I called out to her, and she finally came to herself. "Oh, Mason, I'm sorry for making you leave school early. I was just telling my coworkers that it was no big deal, and they didn't need to call you." "Let's go home," she said to me with her usual smile. But for some reason, I had the feeling that she was uncomfortable. Even on our way home, she kept talking so much that I didn't have a chance to speak. My aunt had a tendency to talk a lot, but she never paused to listen to what I had to say. I knew something was wrong with her that day. When we arrived home, I said, "You're not feeling well today, so don't push yourself too hard. I'll cook dinner," but she insisted that she was all right and stood in the kitchen. I wasn't convinced by her behavior. It seemed like she was trying to hide something. So I finally decided to ask her, "What happened today, Auntie? Why did you pass out?" My aunt didn't even turn around to face me. "I've already told you. I was just so exhausted that I became anemic. They gave me an IV and let me go," she replied. "Then why won't you look at me?" I asked, growing uneasy despite my aunt's reassurances. "Don't lie to me. Something is wrong with you today. I'm 18 years old now. I'm not a child. I've lived with you for a long time. I know when you're lying. Just tell me." Finally, my aunt turned around and gave me a look. Her eyes were filled with tears, and I knew something was seriously wrong. "Yeah, you're right. You're not a child anymore. We need to talk about this properly." After that, the silence felt like it lasted forever. "I believe I have leukemia. It seems to be quite advanced, and I have at most a year left to live." Leukemia is another name for cancer of the blood. My aunt seemed so healthy, so how could she have gotten it? "I'm sorry, Mason. You were so lonely when your father and mother passed away, and now I'm leaving you alone." "I'm so sorry." As my uneasiness turned to despair hearing my aunt's comments, I nearly broke down in tears. I had never seen my aunt cry before, and I knew I had to say something. "You can't give up." When she heard me, she looked surprised and lifted her eyes to look at me. "I've heard that some people have managed to beat leukemia. Doctors may make mistakes since they are also people. Life expectancy is just a prediction, and we have no idea what the future holds. You told me not to give up on my dreams, Addie. Let's work together." These remarks were directed not just at my aunt, but also at myself. The future holds no certainties. Because there's even a 1% chance that we can change it on our own, we must never give up. "You are right, Mason. Let's do our best." As she brushed away her tears, my aunt finally gave me a glimpse of her genuine smile. Then she hugged me and thanked me. The aunt who hugged me was very slender. I became aware that I was now more than 10 centimeters taller than her. My aunt, who has taken care of me since I was a youngster, used to look so big and dependable. But now I realized that she had really been working so hard with such a small body. I was filled with gratitude and the feeling that I should do something for her. I vowed to myself that I would make every effort, and thus my aunt and I started our battle with leukemia. Despite having leukemia at the time of her diagnosis, she was able to move around normally and did not require hospitalization. She always appeared to be in a lot of pain though, and the medication had a lot of negative effects. Don't neglect your studies, music, or your schoolwork. She made me promise that I would go to school without missing a day, and would rush home after classes were over. She was often telling me how much she wanted me to attend the College of Music, which was what I had originally planned to do. Even though my aunt seemed to be in a lot of pain, she told me, "It's time for you to study now, so don't worry about me." I was sometimes sent away to my room. Even under such circumstances, I took care of my aunt as much as I could. Even though initially I continued to struggle with cooking and housework, I eventually learned how to do both. I don't know if it was because of the disease or the side effects, but my aunt, who used to happily consume the food I prepared, began to lose her appetite and eventually found it nearly inedible. I did some research online and started cooking meals specifically for leukemia patients. I never knew I had such a talent for cooking, Mason. She complimented me, and it was probably a good thing that I got sick, because if I hadn't, I wouldn't have discovered this tremendous talent. I was relieved to see my aunt laugh and joke about her illness, although she may have said it to comfort me. She laughed every day, even when it was hard for her. Now that she was able to stay at home, even after a year had passed since she was told she only had a year to live, I started to wonder if laughing might have been significant. Even the doctors were surprised. A few months later, I was accepted into the music college of my dreams. If I had failed, my aunt would have been upset, because she would have believed that because I was taking care of her, I had failed. I had to pass the exam, so I did my best with that in mind. I was quite anxious when my acceptance was announced, but I was able to tell my aunt with a smile that I had passed. "That's great, Mason. I am so proud of you." My aunt was so happy that she cried. Since I was a child, my aunt has always been overly complimentary. I felt a little embarrassed, but it actually brought me a lot of joy and supported my emotional needs. It was my aunt's 43rd birthday, 2 years after she was diagnosed with leukemia. We celebrated together with a simple meal I had prepared and a cake from her favorite shop. Then I said to my aunt, "Auntie, I have a present for you today." I took out my guitar and played a song I had written for her for this occasion. My aunt listened with a smile on her face and tears in her eyes. After listening to the song, she said, "Thank you, Mason. That was beautiful." To the song, my aunt cried and clapped. "That was incredible. You wrote such a wonderful song for me. How blessed I am to have such a fantastic song created for me. Regardless of when I pass away, I have no regrets." "Don't say such a thing. You have to see me fulfill my dreams." With that, we both laughed. It was a heartfelt moment. I will never forget that day. After that, I contacted a number of record labels and frequently received negative feedback. However, one of them praised my demo tape of a song I had written for my aunt, and we ended up signing an exclusive contract. Although it is still a work in progress, I hope my aunt will continue to watch me achieve my goals.